They thought he'd break, that he'd walk away in silence, leaving them everything, the house, the past, even his name. But they miscalculated one thing. He didn't vanish. He went quiet. And in that silence, something far more dangerous than anger was born. Now, every step is part of a plan. Every word, a trap. And when it all begins to fall apart, no one will see where the mistake was made. Because the most terrifying revenge isn't the loud kind, it's the cold one. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watch this video. I value every one of your comments. So, let's get started. My life used to be simple, I murmured, the words echoing faintly through the sterile emptiness of the bedroom. Not anymore. I sat perched on the edge of the bed, only half occupied now, the other side stripped bare, my gaze locked on the void where her things had once been. The left half of the closet was empty, as if someone had cleanly erased her presence from the room. No dresses hanging in a neat row, no carefully aligned heels, nothing of her. The overhead light flickered with a tired hum, casting jittery reflections on the polished floor that somehow felt even lonelier than before. Everything had changed the moment I got back from Portland ahead of schedule. The trip had wrapped up faster than expected, and I was genuinely excited to surprise Danica. After 6 years together, 4 of them married, I believed I knew exactly what coming home meant. I was 32. She was 31. That morning, a quiet thrill had been building inside me. I'd even caught myself quietly singing on the plane, picturing her face lighting up as I walked through the door. But when I pulled into our driveway, I immediately knew something was off. Her car wasn't there. The house felt still, unsettlingly quiet. "Danica?" I called, stepping inside. What met me wasn't a voice, but a suffocating silence. Then I reached the bedroom and saw what I hadn't braced for. The closet wasn't just missing a few things. Half of it was cleared out. Deliberate. Precise. This wasn't someone quickly grabbing a change of clothes. This was a decision, executed thoroughly. My fingers shook as I reached for my phone. Straight to voicemail. Then, suddenly, a message popped up. "I can't do this anymore. I'm leaving. I've moved in with someone who matches my drive, someone more successful. My lawyer will be in touch about the divorce." My throat went dry. I sat, stunned, as time seemed to dissolve into a slow, unbearable crawl. I tried to retrace it all, what signs I had missed, what words I'd dismissed too quickly. The truth began surfacing piece by piece. She had been making remarks for months about my lack of ambition, how she admired people with more spark. She spoke about her colleague Cameron like he was some kind of benchmark. International meetings, a luxury car, a beach house somewhere warm and glossy. She started networking more often, coming home late, sometimes carrying the scent of unfamiliar cologne. It had all been right in front of me, and I'd chosen to trust her. I believed we were steady, solid. I didn't lash out. I didn't smash anything. Instead, I responded methodically. My first call was to James, my closest friend and conveniently a divorce lawyer. Then, I began gathering proof. I took photos, recorded video, logged every absence, what was gone, what remained untouched. I sent her one reply. "Understood. My attorney will be in contact." Then I made my way to the kitchen, poured myself 2 fingers of whiskey, opened my laptop, and got to work. I created a detailed checklist, joint accounts, credit cards, online passwords, lease documents, phone plans. I made sure no detail went unnoticed. If she thought I'd crumble, she was mistaken. I was livid, yes, humiliated, but also sharper than ever. That night, I ignored her mom's repeated calls and declined a vague text from her sister Kira. Around midnight, Danica began texting again. Message after message, baiting, trying to provoke a reaction. I refused to give her one. By 3 in the morning, I had a spreadsheet detailing everything, along with a to-do list for the coming week. Turns out, everything from the lease to the electric bill was in my name. Even the bank accounts and streaming services were under my control, something she must have overlooked in her rush. A rookie move. I felt something cold and calculating settle over me. No panic, just focus. The next morning, I met James downtown to officially start the process. I changed the Netflix password, scheduled a locksmith to install a new front door keypad, boxed up our framed photos from the shelves. She'd left behind important documents, her passport, birth certificate, social security card, all neatly stored in the fireproof safe. I knew they'd come in handy. Despite the barrage of texts she kept sending, I didn't feel broken. Maybe I was still numb, or maybe something had hardened. Either way, I was done being naive. That afternoon, sitting across from James at his sunlit office, we laid out a legal game plan. Then my phone rang. It was Kira. James looked up. Put it on speaker. Julian? Her voice was tight, cracking. I'm so sorry, I should have warned you. My stomach clenched. Warned me about what? She's done this before, Kira admitted. Danica, this isn't new. I stiffened. What are you talking about? She told you her last relationship ended because the guy was emotionally closed off, right? Kira sighed. That wasn't true. He was decent. She left him when someone else came along who looked more successful. That one turned out to be a fraud. Didn't even last 4 months. I shut my eyes, absorbing the pattern. A cycle. Always chasing some mirage. Always trading in partners like outdated tech. James was scribbling furiously, his face calm but clearly intrigued. Just then, Danica messaged again. She was demanding her personal documents, said she needed them for a job application, claimed she had every right, even invoked Cameron's name. Cameron says you have to give me my stuff. James leaned back, expression cool. She vacated the marital residence. That means you're under no obligation to hand anything over casually. We'll arrange a formal handoff on our terms. Until then, archive everything and go silent. I nodded, and for the first time since this all began, I felt a spark of control return. She thought I'd fall apart. She had no idea what she'd just started. Later that day, her mom finally reached me. We stayed on the line for 20 minutes. She cried, apologized over and over, ashamed of her daughter's choices, shocked at how it all unfolded. It all started back in our high school days. On her mom's side, that is. She had this knack for climbing social ladders, always ditching old friends the moment someone richer came along. I honestly thought she'd grown out of it when she married you, like she'd finally landed somewhere steady. I truly am sorry. She's crashing at Cameron's downtown apartment now, isn't she? My voice was calm, without a hint of emotion. Her mother let out a weary sigh. Yes, he's splashing it all over Instagram, but it's just an illusion. His parents had to co-sign the lease. His credit's shot. Danica thinks she's landed in some glamorous new life. She won't listen to reason, she added. I gave a short, dry laugh. She'll get her wake-up call. Still, thanks. I appreciate you telling me the truth. After the call ended, a strange calm came over me. Let them play their parts, curate their fantasy online. Reality has a way of catching up. In the days that followed, I moved with precise efficiency, reset every password, froze our joint accounts, changed the locks, and transferred the utilities into my name. I didn't remove her from the accounts entirely, but I did lock them down tight, pending the divorce. That's when the digital theater began. Danica's social media became a carousel of filtered photos, cocktails, cityscapes, latte art, each post dripping with hashtags like Mao Grateful and Mao New Beginnings. But behind the filters, Kira told me the furniture was rented. The whole apartment was basically a catalog display. I couldn't help but laugh when I realized she was still charging her luxury gym membership to my card. I canceled the account, and with it, the membership. The very next day, her upbeat gym selfies vanished, replaced by rants about financial abuse. The irony was almost poetic. 2 nights later, after a long run, I found her waiting on my front steps, mascara streaked, face damp with tears. She looked up at me, desperate. "Julian, please," she said, her voice on the edge of breaking. "Why won't you talk to me? I just need my documents." I walked right past her and unlocked the door. "From now on, everything goes through the lawyers," I said evenly, stepping inside and shutting the door behind me. She didn't budge. She sat there for 2 full hours, cycling through crying fits and aggressive texts. I watched it all from the new security camera system, feeling nothing but cool detachment. Eventually, her phone died. She stormed off, screaming my name. That night, I boxed up the last of her things. In the process, I found an old journal from our early days. I didn't open it, just packed it away. Whoever had written those pages didn't exist anymore, if they ever had. A week later, her attorney finally reached out to mine. We met at James's office. Danica arrived in a sleek designer outfit, one I'd seen on her social feed more than once. It was clearly in heavy rotation, probably all she had left. Still, she walked in like she owned the place. She locked eyes with me across the conference table. James and I sat opposite her and her lawyer. The tension was thick enough to slice. "Let's begin," James said, keeping things formal. Danica's attorney tried to keep the meeting civil, guiding us through the division of assets. But halfway through, Danica snapped. "I want my documents now," she barked. "He's hiding them from me." Her lawyer winced, clearly blindsided. James didn't flinch. He calmly pushed a few pages across the table, screenshots from Danica's own social media, bragging about her new start with Cameron. Alongside them were texts confirming she'd moved out voluntarily. Together, they made the situation crystal clear. "We can coordinate a supervised transfer," James said smoothly. "But since Ms. Danica left the residence without prior notice, it'll be handled formally. She doesn't get to dictate the terms now." Danica's glare could have shattered glass. "You can't do this, Julian," she hissed. Cameron said. I raised my hand to cut her off. "If Cameron has anything to say, he can pass it along through legal channels. Otherwise, I'm done here." Her mouth twisted in fury. Her lawyer tried to salvage the meeting, and eventually, we agreed to a monitored exchange of her remaining property the following week. Police or attorneys present. We also started sketching out the framework for the divorce. She never stopped throwing daggers at me with her eyes, but I felt nothing. Only a somber, quiet relief. That same week, my boss officially recognized the extra hours and leadership I'd shown during a recent crisis. I got a promotion, better title, higher salary, more flexibility. The timing wasn't lost on me. Just as the marriage was crumbling, my career was ascending. The gym became my sanctuary. I got leaner, stronger. My trainer, Marcus, introduced me to his friend Adrian, a pediatric nurse with a dark sense of humor and a love for terrible puns. We hit it off. I wasn't looking for anything serious, but her honesty, her warmth, and the effortless laughter between us drew me in. She was everything Danica wasn't: real, self-assured, unpretentious. Meanwhile, Kira kept me updated on the slow-motion implosion of Danica's fairy tale. Cameron's startup was flailing. There were murmurs of layoffs, missed rent, a repossessed Tesla, credit cards maxed to the limit. The illusion was falling apart. And me? I felt nothing but a deep, surreal calm. I was moving up, in my job, my health, my life. I finally saw what I hadn't before. I was never just her stepping stone. I was always meant for more. Yet a restless part of me still smoldered, craving something deeper than mere closure. A quiet whisper inside insisted they'd gotten off far too easy, untouched by the reckoning they truly deserved. Kira would check in now and then, always with another juicy update on Danica's slow-motion collapse. One afternoon, she said, "You're not going to believe this. Turns out Cameron's still legally married. His ex-wife just reached out. Apparently, he'd been leapfrogging from one woman to the next for years, treating relationships like rungs on a ladder." Danica had no idea. Now she was unraveling fast. I gave a short laugh. Karma's got precision. A few days later, Adrian and I were grabbing lunch downtown. We were halfway through our sandwiches when Danica walked in with someone unfamiliar. Her gaze locked onto mine immediately, flicking over to Adrian, who was laughing at some dumb joke I'd just made. Danica lingered near the counter, staring blankly at the menu for an absurd stretch. 20 minutes, easily. I didn't let it shake me. I leaned in closer to Adrian, laughing freely, still in the moment. I caught Danica's reflection in the glass case, her jaw clenched, eyes flickering with anger, and something that looked suspiciously like doubt. She left without ordering, but not before shooting me a glare that could have drawn blood. That night, my phone lit up with message after message. Already moved on? Who is she? We need to talk. I made a mistake. I didn't reply. I just forwarded everything to James, muted my notifications, and finished the movie with Adrian. The next day, she showed up at my office building. She looked like she hadn't slept. Tangled hair, gripping a half-empty Starbucks like it was keeping her upright. Security stopped her at the entrance. She waited downstairs for hours. I ducked out the side entrance at lunch and didn't look back. Later that evening, Danica's mom called. She told me Danica was thinking about moving back home. "Cameron turned out to be a disaster," she said with a sigh. I just replied, "Hope she finds what she needs," and ended the call. I told myself I wasn't angry anymore. Whatever I felt now, it was something colder, sharper. A week later, the final exchange was arranged at James's office. Danica was to collect her belongings under supervision. I arrived early, carrying a box, her clothes, her journal, and an envelope with her passport and birth certificate. Adrian had offered to come along, but I declined. "It'll only escalate things," I said. "I've got this." At exactly 2:15, Danica burst through the door. No lawyer in sight. Cameron trailed behind, looking rumpled and tired, a rental suit tag dangling from his collar. James's assistant immediately got on the phone with Danica's lawyer, who claimed he hadn't been informed about today. The tension in the waiting room thickened instantly. "Just hand me my stuff," Danica snapped, reaching for the box. James intervened. "Not without your legal counsel present, Ms. Danica." That set her off. Her voice rose, high-pitched and shaking. "You're loving this, aren't you? While I'm struggling to survive, you're playing some sick game. This is fun for you?" I kept my voice level. "No games, just consequences." Cameron squared his shoulders, trying to look tough. "You're just bitter she moved on. Some of us actually shoot for better." I gave him a look. "That why your Tesla got towed?" His face flushed. Danica's went a deeper shade. "At least he's not stuck in the same place," she spat. "He's proud of me. Posts about us all the time. Shows me off." "And how's he paying for all that flash?" I asked quietly. Cameron snapped. "You don't know a damn thing!" Security moved fast. James's assistant didn't hesitate. She waved them in, and they pulled Cameron back before he could do anything. Danica, meanwhile, went for a different move, full-on tears. She dropped to the floor, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "Julian, please," she sobbed. "I messed everything up. I miss what we had." She clung to her coffee like it might keep her from sinking. "His place is getting foreclosed. I've got nowhere else to go." Our eyes met. Hers were wide, imploring, and suddenly I remembered that message she'd sent months ago about finding someone more successful. I kept my voice flat. "You should have thought about that before you traded up." She recoiled, as if I'd slapped her. "You heartless bastard. I gave you the best years of my life. I could have had anyone." I didn't flinch. "Exactly. That's why I'm letting you go. So you finally can." Security escorted them out through the glass doors. From inside, I watched them erupt in the parking lot, Cameron flailing his arms, Danica shouting back, a storm neither of them could contain. And yeah, I'll admit it, a twisted part of me felt satisfaction seeing it all implode. But even in that moment, it didn't feel like enough. Some darker part of me wanted to see the whole thing burn down to ashes. That night, Danica's mom bombarded me with messages, called me cruel, accused me of humiliating her daughter in public, said Cameron was claiming financial abuse. I rolled my eyes. Then my dad, out of nowhere, called me late. He said I'd crossed a line, that I was better than this. Maybe he was right. But then I remembered everything. The betrayal, the arrogance, the way they looked at me like I'd never measure up. And deep down, I knew the truth. They hadn't even begun to pay for what they did. "This is the end," I murmured, pacing back and forth across my living room. I looked calm, but beneath the surface something volatile stirred. A burning thirst, not for fairness, but for retribution. Justice wouldn't satisfy me. I wanted them broken, their illusions crushed beyond repair. I dialed James. "I found something," I said, voice low and electric with restrained fury. "There are financial discrepancies. Danica's been moving money using my name, forged my signature. And Cameron? He might be running a scam." James let out a long sigh. "We can report it," he replied. "It might spark an official investigation. Are you ready to see this through?" I looked around at the stillness of my home, a hollow monument to what my marriage used to be. "I'm ready," I said, voice cold and sharp. "Let it all fall apart." Within a few days, James quietly submitted a report to the appropriate authorities, fabricated documents, suspect financial activity, and an anonymous tip implicating Cameron's involvement in potential fraud. But I didn't stop there, despite James's warning, and reached out to Cameron's former wife. A friend connected me to someone with her number, and we spoke briefly on the phone. "I heard things didn't end well with Cameron," I said carefully. She gave a short, bitter laugh. "Didn't end well? He left me drowning in debt. That man's a professional liar. Why do you care?" "Because now he's targeting my ex-wife," I said bluntly. I asked if she had proof of what he'd done. A few hours later, she sent a collection of documents, credit card statements, texts, emails, all painting a clear portrait of a practiced deceiver. I forwarded the bundle to James with a note, "Use this if it becomes necessary." He replied simply, "You're playing a dangerous game." He was right, and I didn't care. The following weeks revealed the damage. Cameron stopped paying rent. The staged furniture, never paid for, was repossessed. Word spread that he and Danica had crawled back to her parents' place or were holed up in a dingy motel. Danica turned to social media, spinning her collapse for sympathy. She blamed me, claimed I withheld key paperwork, sabotaging her job prospects. I observed from a distance, detached. Kira later informed me that an official investigation into Cameron's finances had begun. Lawsuits from former victims were likely incoming. Meanwhile, the divorce process inched toward its conclusion. Danica came undone in public. She told stories about my emotional neglect, how Cameron manipulated her during her weakest moments. But the sympathy dried up fast once our mutual friends saw the actual evidence, the receipts, both metaphorical and literal. As for me, my professional life soared. Somehow, my restraint gave me strength. Adrian and I grew closer. Her sincerity, her decency, reminded me that the world wasn't entirely cruel. But even then, a piece of me relished what I'd set in motion. They chose the wrong man to betray. Then came the final divorce hearing, more procedural than anything else. After reviewing Danica's digital trail and the documentation of her departure, the judge ruled firmly in my favor. I kept the apartment. The majority of our joint assets stayed with me. Her request for spousal support was denied outright. She looked stunned, her expression crumpling as the judgment was read aloud. After the session, she followed me into the hallway. "Julian," she whispered, eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I've got nowhere to go. Cameron's gone off the rails. My parents won't help me. Can we please just talk?" I met her gaze, stone-faced. "Talk? After all this?" She wiped at her face. "I know I made a mistake. You were always the steady one. Cameron just seemed like something more. And now you're facing the consequences," I said flatly. "You gave up security for a fantasy. You mocked me. Your mother demeaned me. And Cameron paraded around, flaunting what he stole. Regret doesn't erase betrayal." She collapsed into tears, but I turned and walked away, every step echoing with finality. That night, I went to Adrian's. She embraced me, warmth I hadn't asked for but didn't reject. Still, an emptiness gnawed inside me. The revenge had landed, but so had something colder. Was this what I'd become? Someone who found purpose in watching everything burn? Yes, because I didn't have a choice. You might be wondering about my brother, why he hasn't appeared until now. He was absent from the story, at least until a cousin casually let something slip. Apparently, during our marriage, Danica had met with my younger brother Rhett multiple times. Over coffee, she vented about me, said I was too average, lacking ambition. Rhett, ever the smooth talker, urged her to dream bigger, to walk away. He'd always been that way, chasing clout, chasing cash. And now I understood. He didn't just sit on the sidelines. He nudged her toward Cameron. He enabled it. That betrayal, more than any other, cut the deepest. This wasn't just about my ex-wife's mistakes anymore. This was family. My own blood had whispered poison into her ears and pushed her into the arms of a fraud. What I'd started wasn't just a campaign for vengeance anymore. It was a cleansing fire. My own brother had joined the betrayal. I confronted Rhett one icy night outside a rundown bar, the chill in the air turning every breath into fog. "Say it isn't true," I demanded, blocking his path beneath the stuttering glow of a flickering neon sign that bathed him in a ghastly light. He shrugged with indifference. "And if it is? Come on. You were fine being another cog in the corporate grind. Danica wanted something bigger. I just reminded her not to settle." My hands clenched. "You betrayed me," I said through gritted teeth. He barked out a cruel laugh. "Don't be so melodramatic. She never looked genuinely happy with you." "You really think I didn't notice something was off?" he continued, voice tinged with contempt. "It was going to fall apart anyway." Without thinking, I grabbed his shirt and slammed him into the cold brick wall. Anger blurred my vision. "You're a damn snake," I said, voice low and dangerous. "You destroyed my marriage." "She was already gone in her mind," he growled, struggling against me. "You just made it easy for her." He threw a wild punch, but I caught his arm mid-swing. I pinned him there, breathing hard, every nerve on fire. "You'll pay for this," I whispered. "Count on it." I shoved him aside and walked off into the night, my pulse pounding like war drums. The man I used to be would have walked away and buried the pain. That version of me was dead. In his place stood someone with a purpose, and Rhett had just become the first name on a list. Rhett ran a small consulting outfit, nothing major, but the rumors floating around town told a different story. Shady operations, questionable documents, clients left confused and angry. Fueled by vengeance, I began investigating. Old messages between him and Danica surfaced, full of sly encouragements to leave me behind. And then I stumbled onto something worse, a financial paper trail that didn't add up. Buried in a mess of legal forms, I found my own name, forged, listed as co-signer on a business loan. I had no idea at the time. But in the aftermath of Danica leaving and the sting of Rhett's betrayal, the discovery lit every warning bell in my head. I kept digging, old emails, bank records, reaching out to anyone who had known us both. Eventually, I struck the jackpot. Undeniable digital proof that Rhett had faked my signature on loan documents. A crime, not just unethical, but punishable by law. I loaded everything onto a USB drive and sat with it, the weight of the decision crushing. Turning him in meant legal trouble, possibly prison. But this was also the man who'd helped rip my life apart. Then came the text. "We need to talk. Don't do this. We can fix it." I typed back 2 words. "Your help?" And then, "I'd rather watch you burn." He called. I let it ring. The next morning, I walked into James's office and handed over the USB. He glanced at it, then passed it to a law enforcement contact. Even he looked shaken. "Julian, this is big. Are you sure about this?" My eyes didn't move from the wall. I've never been more sure of anything. Rhett must have felt the pressure closing in. That night he pounded on my door like a man possessed. I cracked it open. "Leave," I said flatly. He shoved the door open and stormed inside, rage twisting his features. "You turned me in? Over a damn loan from years ago?" I folded my arms as the door creaked shut. "You made that decision the day you turned your back on me." His fists clenched. "You're insane. You're going to ruin my entire life for this?" A slow, cold grin crept across my face. "And you didn't ruin mine? You think I don't know you poisoned Danica against me? Whispered in her ear until she walked out?" He snapped, lunged. We hit the floor like wild animals, knocking over furniture, fists flying. I landed a blow to his jaw. He caught me in the ribs. But I had something he didn't. Months of bottled fury and nothing left to lose. I pinned him, my breath ragged. "It's over," I said, low and sharp. "The cops have everything. In a few weeks, you'll be lucky if you're not behind bars." He spat blood and glared up at me. "You can't do this. We're family." I pushed off him, chest heaving. "Family?" I laughed bitterly. That word meant something. Before you drove a knife through my back. He just lay there, gasping, the truth hitting him like a freight train. I stepped to the door and opened it. "Get out." He stumbled to his feet, dazed, blood dripping from his lip. He stared at me like I was a stranger, and maybe I was. Maybe this new version of me was darker, colder. But I felt no shame. He limped down the hallway and disappeared into the night. My knuckles throbbed. My hand ached, but all I felt was grim, unwavering satisfaction. Rhett's business didn't just falter, it collapsed. Once the authorities dug into the forged paperwork, the rest came tumbling down. Hidden fraud, false filings, enraged clients. Charges piled up. His reputation disintegrated. Our parents tried at first to defend him, shocked that I would go to such lengths. But as the truth came to light, even they couldn't deny it. Eventually, my father called, voice trembling, barely able to process the reality. "Julian, he's your brother. Couldn't this have been handled behind closed doors?" I let a bitter smirk slip across my face. He didn't just cross a boundary, he detonated something inside me. "This is what happens now," my father mumbled, voice thick with worry. "He could end up doing time." "That's his cross to bear," I said flatly and hung up. Once those words might have weighed heavy on me. I might have wrestled with guilt, but that part of me was long gone. They stripped it away and built something colder in its place. Kira messaged that evening. Rhett was unraveling. Legal bills were drowning him. His business was circling the drain. She asked me if this made me happy. I replied, "Not happy. Just finished." And don't think for a second my mother stayed quiet after I pulled the rug out from under her precious golden sun. She stormed into my apartment on a Sunday like a hurricane, pounding fists, voice sharp as broken glass. I met her at the door, arms folded, eyes unwavering. "How could you do this?" She shrieked, her rage boiling over. "Rhett is your brother. You've ruined his life. And Danica, she's out on the street. What kind of person does this?" I let out a dry, joyless chuckle. "Danica? You mean the woman who tossed me aside for a con artist? Don't waste your breath. And Rhett? He forged my signature. That's not a slip-up. It's a criminal offense. If you're proud of him, that says more about you than me. Her hand shook as she pointed a finger at me. You've become something cruel, Julian. Twisted. I flashed a smile that held no warmth. Funny. I learned from the best. They all stood by while Danica betrayed me. Rhett played cheerleader. The whole damn family watched me burn. And now? They were choking on the smoke. She raised her hand, ready to strike, but I caught her wrist mid-swing. Leave, I said, voice hard as iron, before I decide to bury everyone who still clings to his side. Her face drained of color. She stumbled back, eyes wet, lips trembling. I slammed the door in her wake. My chest heaved with the rush. Some sliver of my conscience flinched at the harshness of it all, but the rest of me? The rest savored it. Word spread fast. Rhett was formally charged, fraud and forgery. As for Danica, once Cameron imploded and ghosted, she'd been crashing on couches, lost and aimless. Then came the storm. My phone buzzed. Security camera ping. Danica, standing on my doorstep, rain-soaked and shivering. I walked outside. She looked wrecked. Her hair clung to her skin and her voice barely carried. Julian, she choked. I don't have anywhere else. My mom cut me off. Cameron vanished. Rhett's destroyed. I'm sorry. I regret everything. Her voice cracked. For a second, old memories surged. Her laugh, our wedding day, the quiet moments that used to mean something. But that version of us? She'd killed it. Sorry for what exactly? My voice was as cold as the wind. Please, just let me stay for a while, until I can figure something out. She dropped to her knees, the rain soaking her clothes, her pride. I stared, heart thudding like war drums in my chest. Why should I help you? I asked quietly. Because you weren't always like this. You loved me. That man's still in there. I know it. Something in me stirred. I crushed it instantly. That man died the moment you betrayed our vows. Her lips quivered. They say you've changed, become heartless. Now I believe them. But I'm still asking. Thunder cracked above us. I took a long breath. If I let you in, I said carefully, don't expect kindness. Understand? She frowned, confused. What are you saying? I gave her a dark smile. I could make you scrub every inch of this place, make you repay every cent, break you, humiliate you. That's who I am now. Still want to come in? Her eyes went wide. You wouldn't. I leaned closer, voice razor sharp. You told me to be stronger, to be a real man. This is what you created. Take it or walk away. Rain and tears blurred on her face. Then, without a word, she turned and fled into the storm. I stood there, watching the night swallow her, and strangely, I felt at peace. I stared my own darkness in the eye, and she ran. Good. The rest followed like dominoes. The divorce was finalized. I kept the apartment, the assets, owed her nothing. Rhett's court date drew near, and this time, not even the family's guilt could shield him from what was coming. My mother exiled me from her life, spitting accusations that I was some kind of abomination. I let her words slide off me like water-down steel. Adrian, ever attuned to what went unsaid, sensed the burden I carried. One quiet evening, she studied me for a moment before asking gently, "You've been distant lately, like something heavy is pressing on you." I exhaled slowly, eyes locked on the glow of the city beyond her balcony. "They broke me, Adrian," I said. "Turned their backs when I needed them most. I did what survival demanded. But sometimes I wonder, did I lose too much of myself in the process?" She laid her hand softly over mine. "You don't need to keep clutching the pain like a lifeline," she whispered. "You found your resolution. But if you let the bitterness stay, it'll eat away everything good that's left." I gave a small nod, though deep inside, the idea of letting go felt unreachable. Revenge had reshaped me, become the filter through which I saw the world. It was no longer just a feeling. It was my compass. I wasn't sure how to exist without it. But for Adrian, for the quiet, steady love she gave, I was willing to try. Time passed, as it always does. Eventually, Rhett's trial concluded. He escaped with probation and a crushing debt to repay. He slunk back to my parents' house where resentment simmered, but duty outweighed pride. Danica vanished from our lives, likely retreating to her mother's care. Whispers surfaced that she'd taken a dead-end job and cried herself to sleep at night, haunted by the wreckage of her choices. And Cameron? Stories about him were scattered. Some said he'd run into legal problems. Others claimed he started fresh somewhere far away. And me? I flourished. My career ignited like wildfire. With Adrian, I discovered a peace I hadn't known I needed. We built a home together, filled it with quiet laughter and the soft presence of 2 adopted cats. Living, breathing proof that comfort didn't have to be curated or performative. It was real, and it was ours. Yet sometimes, in the silence that lingers just before dawn, I catch echoes of who I used to be. That unguarded version of myself, hopeful, vulnerable, willing to believe the best in others, is long gone. In his place stands someone forged by fire and betrayal, someone who systematically dismantled every threat that came too close. Do I wish it had gone differently? Now and then. But then, the memories come rushing back, the mockery of my ambitions, the sting of my family's betrayal, and the fury rises once more, reminding me why I walked this path. If that casts me as the villain in their eyes, so be it. They struck the first blow. I made sure mine was the last. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.